He can't go to the United States without me, and if I don't want to go, I don't want to go.
Hello and welcome to Happily Ever Reality. I am so glad you're here. Today, you guys, we are talking about 90 Day Fiance the other way. I mentioned this previously, but I'll say it again. This is my favorite spinoff in the 90 Day Fiance franchise, so I am really excited that it is back on. Let's go ahead and get started. The show starts off with Kris from Alabama. She is 40 years old, but she says she looks and feels like she is 20. She likes to dress up in costumes and she owns a lot of onesies. They actually show a clip of her wearing a fairy costume as she walks down to get her mail. So she is kind of her own person, a little bit quirky. She says she likes to wear costumes because she feels more like herself in a costume than in her normal clothes. She shares a bit about her past. She has been married twice before and she has 2 adult children. She had sort of given up on love when she saw an ad for an international dating site and she decided to join. So now she has a girlfriend named Jayme in Colombia. This is Kris's first actually not even serious, it's her first same-sex relationship, and she says it's the first time she feels like she's really being herself. But of course, there are some issues, some red flags. Their relationship at this point, they've been seeing each other. Well, they haven't been seeing each other. They have been dating online for a year, but it has been only on the phone. So they have never met. Now Kris is going to be heading to Colombia to see if her girlfriend is truly the love of her life, but she is going to have to figure it out quickly because they are getting married 9 days after Kris arrives in Colombia. And that is happening because, according to Kris, they were just so excited to get married. They wanted the first date that was available at their wedding venue. So they are going to have to move quickly. Kris said that she knew she wanted to marry Jayme after Jayme got COVID and was put in the hospital. Kris realized that she wanted to go there and she didn't want to wait on doing all of the paperwork to get Jayme to America. So that is Kris and Jayme. I don't know, guys. I don't know about marrying someone 9 days after meeting them, but you always hear those tales like in the past where people be like, oh, my grandma and grandpa only knew each other a month and then they got married and they've been together 25 years or, whatever. You know what I mean? Or 30 years. You know those stories. We know them, right? Yeah, so maybe it'll work. We'll just have to see. The next couple isn't new to 90 Day Fiance. They are on the 90 Day Fiance Love in the Caribbean spinoff. So they're not new to it, but they're coming over to the other way. So we have Danielle and Johan. If you're not familiar with them, Danielle is 42 years old. She's a high school teacher and a yoga instructor. She lives in New York. She has an adult child. She was briefly married once before, but she took a trip to the Dominican Republic and met Yohan, and he is a 32-year-old personal trainer at a hotel. So she met him where she was staying, and she said it was love at first sight. She knew right away that she was going to marry him. I'm not going to go into all the details, but if you watched this couple previously, there are a lot of issues. There are spiritual differences. They have financial issues. They have disagreements about where they want to live. But on the previous show, they still got married. But now we're seeing them after they've gotten married, and Danielle is headed back to the Dominican Republic. Next, we meet Rishi and Jen. Rishi is 32 years old. He lives in India and he loves his hair. He is also a fitness trainer and a model. He also has a master's degree and a law degree. And I just want to let you guys know, if by some chance you're listening to this and you haven't watched it at all, I have a feeling that Rishi is going to provide us with some comedy. I think we're going to hear some really funny stuff from him just because of how he was introduced and how he talks about himself. I think this is going to maybe be my favorite couple. We'll see. Meanwhile, we also have his girlfriend, Jen. She is 46 years old and she has moved around a lot in her life. But right now, when the show starts, she is temporarily located in Oklahoma with her family. Rishi and Jen tell us that they met in a hotel lobby when she was traveling in India. Their relationship moved fast. Like, It moved so fast they were engaged in 1 month, but Jen said she had no problem saying yes to the proposal. Now, there is a little bit more info I want to give you about them. They haven't actually seen each other in over 2 years because they met before COVID. So she met him and then she came back to America and she wasn't able to go back due to the travel restrictions. Yeah, so they haven't seen each other in a while. And there is a scene where Jen is talking to her brother and he points out that this couple has already had some issues. Her brother asks, "How many actual days have you spent with him?" And she says, 45. So that's 45 days in 2 years. So you can tell that her brother does not think going there is a good idea, and he's definitely concerned about her. So even though I think I'm going to think that Rishi is funny, I don't know about this couple in the long run. We'll have to see what happens. But let me know, what did you guys think when you saw Rishi's introduction? I just thought it was really funny. Next, we meet Gabriel. He is 32 years old and is currently living in Florida. He owns a very unique business. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because I know that YouTube flags words, or at least that's what I understand about YouTube and words. So I'm just going to say he designs undergarments for people that are transitioning. If you want to know more, I'm sure you can look it up and find it. Gabriel is trans and he is very proud of it. And I say that because he holds one-man pride parades. When he is feeling proud, he just goes out there with a sign out into the public, out into the streets, and has his own parade. So he has a really outgoing personality. He seems really nice. He just seems like a nice guy. But we find out that Gabriel met Isabel when he had went to Colombia for work, and they fell in love. He has an apartment in Colombia, and Isabel already lives in that apartment. But Gabriel has been traveling back and forth. So he's been going back to Florida, and he has just decided he is ready to go there full time. And when he gets there, he intends to propose. Now, like a lot of the other couples, there is an issue. We find out that Gabriel has not shared with Isabel's family, and Isabel hasn't shared with her family that he is trans. So he is very worried about this, and he doesn't really know how to handle it. So we find that out when he is talking to one of his friends. So that is it for introductions to the couples. We move more into the storylines. We end up seeing Danielle talking to her friends, and her friends express concerns about her giving up all of her stuff and giving up her jobs. And when they ask her what she's going to do there, she says she loves the beach. So Danielle's just going to go to the beach all day. But it gets better. They start talking about her finances. And you guys, she says this.
And financially, you're going to be doing...
I'll eat mangoes.
I'm going to start saying that anytime I want something like really expensive and I can't afford it. You know, how am I going to handle this? Well, I guess I'm just going to eat mangoes now. So, yep, that's her theory. That's how they're going to get by. And her friends keep pushing. They want to know more about the finances. And then she says this.
How are you going to afford it? How?
I'm going to manifest it.
I really don't know that Danielle has thought everything through. It doesn't sound like it based on her responses to things. We also find out while Danielle is talking to her friends that Yohan doesn't realize that she wants to move and live in the Dominican Republic forever. He thinks that living there is temporary and that he's going to be coming back to America with her. But that requires Danielle applying for a visa for him, and she hasn't. She's not doing it because she doesn't want to live in New York anymore. She doesn't want to live in the city. She wants a peaceful life there in the Dominican Republic. Yeah, that is just not what they agreed to in the beginning. So this is not going to go well. But here's my thing, and this is what I don't get. You know, she knows that he wants to come to America, and she knows she's over living in the city. There are places in America that aren't cities. Why doesn't she find a compromise? If it's really love and they love each other, why don't they find a place somewhere in the middle? But Danielle seems very determined that she's not going to be here. She is going to be there. So that is where we're at with them. From here, we move over to Jayme. Now, this is Jayme and Kris, right? But we see Jayme in Colombia. We find out that she had previously lived in Venezuela, but she has been in Colombia for a few years now. She is very open about being a lesbian, and all of her friends know it. Everyone around her accepts it, but not her parents, who are back in Venezuela. She has never told them. So this is sort of an issue because now she's on a show, right? So Jayme talks a lot about that. She shares that she has never had an official girlfriend. Like, she's never had a real relationship. So much like Kris, this is going to be the first same-sex relationship for her. Jayme, when she's talking about Kris, she seems very much in love. She says Kris is amazing and everything she could want in a person. But, of course, what we need to always have in the back of our minds with this couple is that Jayme and Kris have never met in person. Their entire relationship is based on the internet and the phone. So this couple's actually meeting and, remember, marrying in 9 days. I think it's just straight up craziness, but they both seem really excited. I feel nervous for them, but they are very excited. We do end up finding out when Jayme is talking to her friends that at one point Kris disappeared for 20 days. So this is a couple that's been together 1 year, completely on the phone and online, and she just ghosted Jayme for 20 days and then reappeared. And when she came back, she said she had problems at home, and that was why she couldn't talk to her anymore, or for that 20 days. So after Kris had disappeared, Jayme and her ended up working it out. But we find out that when Kris disappeared, Jayme went back to that dating website and started talking to someone else for that month. Now, this is just my opinion based on what I saw, and I'm probably going to be wrong, but I think Jayme is really into Kris and seems to really care about her. And when her friends brought up that she was talking to another woman, I think Jayme looked really upset. So, and I don't think it was the type of upset where Jayme was like torn between two women. Do I love Kris or the woman in Texas? No, I think Jayme was upset that she did it and that the whole thing happened. So I'm rooting for them, but I'm often wrong. So, we'll see what happens between them. So we jump from Jayme in Colombia back over to Danielle and Yohan. Yohan shares that he is trying to learn English in his spare time. Now remember, Yohan thinks that he is going to be moving to New York City with Danielle. So learning English is going to be very beneficial for him. So that is what he thinks. But we know that is not the plan for Danielle. There ends up being a moment where they're at the airport and Danielle has arrived and she is standing next to him with her arm around his back. I'm going to try to put a picture in of it so you can just see it. You can see them standing next to each other, and Danielle is smiling and they're just happy because they're seeing each other, and she's got this very bubbly personality, so she's sort of laughing. And remember, he has very limited English, so she can stand next to him and say whatever she likes, and he doesn't necessarily understand, and so she does it. She says that she needs to tell him that they are not going to America, and she's just standing there saying it to the camera that she needs to do this. And I'm like, no, I don't know what it was. I didn't like it. I want to like Danielle, but she's going to have to cool it a bit because I just don't like this situation where she's just talking a lot and she seems so sure she's not going to come to America, yet he thinks he is. And there's just something about it I don't like. A lot of times with this show, I have a sense of humor about it because it can be funny to watch Americans think they're ready to go live somewhere else when they're just not. And sometimes it's funny, but this, I don't know. This isn't really funny to me, even though she's laughing. I'm not laughing with her. Yeah, I don't like this. So we move over from Danielle and Yohan at the airport to seeing Gabriel getting Isabel's name tattooed on his arm. So this is the man living in Florida who owns his own business. So he is headed to Colombia, but he's getting a tattoo on his arm. And we find out that this isn't even something that's new to him.
This is not the first time I tattooed a woman's name on my body.
We find out that they are going to be blacking out the other tattoo. And while Gabriel is getting that tattoo, he is talking to his sister, Monica. And I have to tell you, I really like Monica because she just she just sort of tells it how it is. Monica says that Gabriel can be impulsive and that he jumps into relationships. She also points out that Gabriel said he wouldn't date someone who had kids after his last relationship. But Isabel, the woman in Colombia, she has 2 kids. Gabriel responds by saying that these kids are older. It's an 11-year-old boy and a 16-year-old girl, and that these kids can take care of themselves. Which I can sort of see. Maybe you don't want to be around babies and toddlers, but they're still kids and they're still going to need guidance and parents and mom. You know what I mean? Like, we'll see what happens. I don't know, guys. I don't feel good about this. But again, they might prove me wrong. So from here, we move over to Kris, and she is talking to her mom. Now, just to keep reminding you who is who, Kris is the woman who has never been in a same-sex relationship before. She's got the adult kids. She is going to be going to Colombia to see Jayme, and they've never met in person, right? So we're over with Kris, and she's talking to her mom. Her mom has concerns, including some concerns about Kris's health. Kris explains that she has narcolepsy. But during this conversation, we find out that 6 months ago, Jayme was talking to someone else. So this someone else that Jayme was talking to is the same person that Jayme told us about earlier in the show. It's the woman Jayme was talking to when Kris disappeared for 20 days. But Kris tells us more. What happens is, Jayme's in Colombia, Kris has disappeared. Jayme starts talking to another woman on the dating site. The woman that she's talking to sends a message to Kris and basically says, I've been talking to her and I just want to let you know that she's using you for money. The woman even claims that Jayme, when she said she had COVID, she wasn't really stuck at a hospital. She was actually working the whole time and just taking Kris's money. So yeah, that is something that's going on with them. And I just want to remind you again, she's going to Colombia and marrying her in 9 days. I would really have a hard time trusting someone if I sort of had that information. I would need more time. I would need to try to do some investigating. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with those two. So the last part of this show has Danielle and Johan back in the Dominican Republic, and they are riding in a car together. Danielle is trying to tell Johan that they aren't moving to America. She actually says her dream is just to never go back to New York. Here's the thing. I know she feels stressed there and the cost of living is high, and she seems very unhappy. But I am still struggling to understand why if Johan wants to come to America, why can't she find somewhere else to live? She talks about how expensive it is to live there. I don't live in New York City, and the cost of living is a lot less. So there are cheaper places to live. It feels like in America, there's a compromise somewhere. There's a place for the two of them to live and be happy. But she just keeps saying, I'm not going back to New York, and I'm living here. I'm living in the Dominican Republic. We're staying here. But here's the thing. Johan isn't stupid. He says that Danielle is making excuses and seeing the bad in New York because she thinks the Dominican Republic is so much better. But he knows that there are difficulties with them staying there as well. So my thing is, I think they both do it. They're both just seeing the other place being this perfect place, and they're not understanding the difficulties. I think they should just look for somewhere different, a third place. But I do want to throw this little clip in.
Whether or not Johan understands this is where we're living. Because he can't go to the United States without me, and if I don't want to go, I don't want to go.
See, that is not okay to me. I don't like this at all. And I hope this is something that they're able to resolve and work out quickly, because to me, it feels like a situation where she is going to use her advantage and have control. So she's going to end up trying to have all the control because she has a little bit of an upper hand, and I just don't like it. So I hope she rethinks how she's handling this and she tries to compromise a little bit more with him. But that is all for this episode, guys. Let me know what you think about the new couples we've met. Let me know what you think about how they're going to do. If you want to make some predictions, do that in the comments. If you haven't already, click like and subscribe and come back to Happily Ever Reality to talk more about your favorite reality TV shows.